Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 190 at scavengerlife.com. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending.
Yeah. And we hope that you've started playing this because you're about to do some eBay work. So that's makes us feel the best when you have decided to listen to us while you actually list or take pictures.
And it helps when the podcast is 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get more work done.
So today I wanted to start talking about, I think something that maybe isn't talked about as much as maybe it should be, is that the cool thing about having an eBay store, or at least it's for us, is it feels to me like we're getting paid to have fun.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
don't you think that's so sometimes?
Yeah, for most of the time, yeah.
I think for us that's very important. And
yeah.
I think we kind of talk about it a lot, about our days and how we feel about our day and if we're bored or tired or, you know, what we can do to not feel like our day is feeling horrible.
Right.
You know? And I guess all of this obviously depends on what your idea of fun is.
Right.
You know? So we had a fun day this past, I think
it was Tuesday.
Yeah. Where, you know, we had talked about we have this rental now and we have to wash all these sheets and towels, or you do because you're a washer. Not because I'm a horrible man, but because you
do other things.
You've chosen to do that.
Yeah, you do other things.
And we don't have a dryer for our own personal clothes because we don't need it. We can just hang dry our own clothes.
Yeah.
But we can't hang dry.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
There's not enough room. It comes out wrinkly.
So we made a business decision to buy a dryer for our house.
So I have a Whirlpool Duet dryer our washer that was given to us when we first got our house, which was awesome because it's a kick-ass washer.
It's like a front
loader. It's huge, which is great for all the like big, you know, stuff you have to wash. So I wanted one that matched that. I think this washer is like 13 years old or something. So I wanted one that looked just like it, but it's such a prevalent model that it's not hard to find them on Craigslist. So I went on Craigslist and I emailed.
I mean, let's be fair. It's a common-ish model, but it's always pretty amazing to me when you can find the exact one you want.
Like the buttons are exactly the same colors and everything. Yeah, it is. It's really amazing. So I went on Craigslist and I emailed several people that had this model, and I really wanted like a specific person because I wanted to drive to a specific part of the state. I did not want to go to DC. I wanted to avoid that at all costs.
We wanted to go away from urban areas and closer to more other like country areas.
Cities.
Yeah.
You know, like Charlottesville.
Right.
And I found a guy outside of Charlottesville that was actually willing to meet us in town, which was about 25 miles from his house. So that was really swell.
So, I mean, it's just part of the story is like this is the beginning of the fun for us.
Right.
You know, this is what makes it fun for us to be a scavenger.
Right.
Number one, we identify something we want. And instead of thinking automatically, well, I guess let's go to a Lowe's and buy it brand new.
Yeah.
Maybe put it on credit, you know. One of these washers is, $1,000.
Oh my God.
Pretty easy.
Insane.
So we get excited because we found one we want for cheap, for $200.
Yeah, and I love it because the scavenger and me, I talked him down by $50, and I got him to meet us in the city. So.
Now, however, it's fun for us, but for some people, it wouldn't sound fun. So it's about an hour and a half, away. So we're talking, 3 hours round trip. So what we do as scavengers is we build in a scavenger day. So we're like, well, we're going here. Where else can we go and what else can it be scavenged? So another thing we know it's needed are end rolls.
End rolls, newspaper end rolls. About a year ago, I got a bunch of them from the newspaper, the closest newspaper printer. And I've used them for packing. And the great thing is, before I was using regular newspaper that has all the print on it. And actually something that people were saying in the comments is it gets all over the place. It gets all over your fingers. It gets all over your item if you don't wrap it correctly. So the newspaper end rolls are amazing.
And we learned about this from somebody else that told us about it online.
Yeah.
So, we've learned from other people where it's newspaper companies, when they print, they have, gigantic
Huge
rolls as big as a person, and then they print down
to like 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah, where there's only 2 or 3 inches left, which is a lot, but for them it's worth.
Yeah, they can't print. They have to take those off the
So actually, it's pretty common. If you call your local newspaper, they'll connect you to their...
it's the circulation desk.
And they should know all about this because people buy them from it. And so basically, we bought...
I think 15 rolls?
15 rolls for $2 a piece.
Yeah. They charge $2. Some people charge by weight, which is too bad because they're quite heavy.
But it's still a good deal.
Still cheap.
Yeah. And so... This is like blank paper.
It's great.
It's a newspaper, but it's blank, so it's perfect to wrap things. It's good to, pad out a box, all that stuff.
I use it all the time.
And these 15-inch rolls that cost us $30 is going to last us a year and a half.
It'll last about a year.
So anyway, that was number 2. That was something else that we put in there.
Yeah. So
into our trip.
The great thing was I had been calling them, and they never had any, and they happened to have 15 rolls the day we were going, and I was like, please hold them for me.
Right.
They're in another city, but they're on the way home. So I was like, that's perfect.
And so this day's becoming very exciting.
It's very scavenger.
So we wake up early. We go to, a different part of the state that we don't go to very often. And, so it's fun. We pick up the
dryer
from the guy. And
he was so sweet, too.
Yeah. And we have like a cool conversation with him because he talks about how he loved this thing but had to buy another one.
It was so funny because, it's the total scavengers in us where we're like, what's the story behind this? Why do you just have the dryer?
And that's really fun. It's, we love that. We love to meet the people we get things from because we love to hear the story. And, he was so pleased that it was going to someone that was going to appreciate
really
it.
Need it and wanted that model. Yeah.
And then
really
we had breakfast, which is always fun for me.
Yeah, well, we met him. It was so funny. We met him at a Waffle House, and we were like, hell yeah, we're getting waffles.
And so then while we're eating its breakfast, we're like, okay, now we're in a new town.
Right.
Where could we go scavenge?
Yeah.
So we decide to go scavenge at a restore.
Yeah, Habitat Restore. Because a lot of times we'll just go there and just see what they have.
Well, some people may know what that is. These restores, if you Google it, they'll be very common. They're run by Habitat for Humanity. So when they get stuff donated to them, they often can't use everything in the houses that they build.
So they sell it.
So it's basically like a Goodwill, but for
house stuff.
For house stuff.
Plumbing, furniture, tiles, paint.
That place was so invaluable for us when we redid our farmhouse. We got doors, windows, tiles.
When we redid our house, too. We went to that place every single week, and it was, so far away. But, I'm looking around our house, and I see all this stuff, all the windows, all the doors.
And, it's a kind of place where it would probably drive a construction guy crazy because it's not like you can go and say, okay, I need 100 of this. You go there and see it's what they have that day.
And see if you can use it.
And then you're like, could I fit that into what I'm doing?
Yeah.
So that was great. It's for us because we could actually cut custom size
windows. It didn't matter.
And
doors, whatever. Yeah. And what was funny is I remember some of the materials that we got there encouraged us to just continue using those materials, like hardy board.
Right.
We had a whole bunch of hardy board that was going to do the back building.
Yeah, and hardy board is like what people put on the outside of their house.
Yeah, it's like a cement board. It's almost like tile backing board, but it's a siding for
And
outside.
because we did not want to do vinyl. And we couldn't afford to do a wood. So it was perfect. So we were like, we'd never heard about this stuff. We got a bunch of it for pretty cheap, and then we just had to buy the rest of it new. But
so it's interesting. It was like it introduced us to the idea of this other thing. So
we're no longer redoing either houses now. So the question is, why would we still go there? Because we've learned that people donate all kinds of stuff to them, and so it happens fairly rarely, but sometimes someone gives them something that is totally not about building a house.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do with it, so they basically give it away.
Right.
And that just happened this time.
So what was funny is we didn't really find anything. We saw some cool furniture, but we were like, oh, we have the dryer in the back. We can't really, like, whatever. So I'm looking at the front. We were talking to the guys in the front, just, like, saying hello, whatever. And they had this display of nail polish.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell? That's so random. So I didn't really think about it because I was like, oh, I have so much, like, random nail polish I need to list, whatever. So we went and got coffee at the place down the street. And I was, like, looking up the brand, and I'm like, this is a really high-end brand.
Because they're doing the bottles for
50 cents each.
It's 50 cents each. And so Ryan sees that they sell on Amazon or eBay for like between $15 to $20.
15 to 20 a bottle.
Right. And Ryan was like, do I really want to get this? And I'm the one that's always like, if it's cheap,
we should get it.
Let's go. And they had 18 bottles at the front. So I was like,
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to buy all these bottles.
That's pretty good,
Yeah, we're like, that's not bad.
We'd spend like $9-10 and we'd make, who knows, a couple $100
maybe. So we're up there, and the manager was like, I have a lot more of this. And we're like, oh, cool. Like, we'll take a box,
Yeah, especially if we could get a deal, how much more if you have, and so he takes us to the back. He has 800 bottles of this nail polish, brand new. And we were like, why would someone do this? He was like, we think it was a
mistake.
Yeah, that we just got a big truckload of stuff, and this stuff happened to be in it. And
if you think about it, 800 bottles is 6 small boxes.
Right.
I mean, someone could easily just not have known, what it was. It wasn't like a pallet or anything.
So, we were like, well, what if we take all of it? He was psyched because,
he wanted it out of there.
The people that come into his place are there to buy it's construction stuff. They don't want nail polish.
Bright red.
He couldn't get rid of the stuff at 50 cents each. And so he was imagining, a decade of trying to sell nail polish. So he gave it to us all for $300. So it came out to be
800 bottles. It was like 35 cents each a bottle.
And so, all brand new in the package, like
incredible
in the box. And so
they come in individual boxes.
So it was awesome. So we start driving home, and we have a dryer. We have 800 bottles of nail polish. And we have 15 end rolls of newspaper packing material.
You could not have described it better as a scavenging day.
But,
it was like so
It was one of those things, and only other scavengers would not understand this. I mean, we're doing their hour-and-a-half drive back home, beautiful country by a mountain, and it's almost like I have a high.
Yeah, you're just like...
I feel like my day has been so productive.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Because, we've spent, $550, $600 on everything in the back of our truck, and we don't like to actually think it's profit yet, but that nail polish.
Yeah.
I mean, 800 bottles, even if they sell for $10 each, I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But the thing is, we'll talk about it a bit more. It's a whole thing. You have to have a strategy for selling that stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is what I mean by running an eBay store makes me feel like we're getting paid to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't have had more fun that day. Yeah. Like, some people like going to a beach and sitting on a beach. That's not exciting to me.
It's exciting
This is exciting to me.
Newspaper end rolls. What was so funny, though, is like when we got those end rolls, the guy up front who was helping us load them up, we had a dryer and 800 bottles of nail polish in the back of our truck. One box of which was just a basket full of nail polish. Yeah. He must have been like, what in the hell are you guys doing? Yeah. It was so funny. But I love that. So that's the picture that you see on the blog is our truck with our lovely dryer and everything else.
You were smart to actually snap a photo of it,
like,
so that you can see what we look like driving home that day. But if you're new to eBay, because I feel like recently we've got a lot of people getting on the blog or they email us and they're like, I just started to sell on eBay.
Right.
I'd like to figure out if I could make it's this work.
Yeah.
They're probably hearing us, and I mean, I got to say that we have we started in 2008, so we're kind of like what we look like if you stick to this.
Right.
Like we're a future, you're not going to get to where we are without doing a lot of work between now and then. So kind of if you're hearing this podcast, if what we're talking about sounds exciting, then cool.
Yeah.
If what we're talking about doesn't sound exciting, then
turn back now.
Yeah. Like, I'm not sure if selling on eBay might be the right thing. Although, there's all kinds of ways to sell on eBay.
Yeah, there's but this is, obviously we talk about our way.
So it took us 3 years too. I mean, we talk about we now have started a vacation rental. I mean, that took us 3 years to do as well.
Right.
I mean, so the kind of, I guess what we're trying to do with these weekly podcasts is just show that things take time.
Yeah.
But if you stick to it, then like 1 week builds on another week, builds on another week. And that's the way we always think of it. So when we're having one of those slow weeks, like we kind of had this week.
Oh my God.
We have to always remember that it doesn't matter if it's slow, it's movement forward. There's still things happening. If this part of our business isn't, really being cool and crazy, then let's focus on another part of it.
Yeah.
Always doing something.
I think that's been the key, especially like this week where, like you said, things were a little bit slow, so we went scavenging, and things were slow, so I was just like listing like crazy.
And that scavenging day really kind of kept me as motivated throughout the entire week.
Right.
I mean, even though not a lot of other crazy things happened.
Right. That was kind of the pinnacle beginning of the week.
And, a day like that is so fun, and that's how we got through the past, 2008, 6 years, right? 7 years.
I'm like, how many?
We got through those years by having fun.
Yeah.
And it's not fun like, oh, I'm super lazy and I'm not doing anything and sitting on a couch kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because I guess some people think that's fun.
Right.
I mean, it's fun for us is I like to work, I like to be active, and I'm getting into a fun flow.
Right.
And that to me is what eBay's about, is that getting into a flow.
Right.
Sitting down with a box of 20 items and getting into the flow of researching it, photographing it, and listing it.
And when things don't feel fun, like I was listing like a crazy person this week because it was so slow. I'll look at a folder of stuff and I'll be like, oh, this stuff is so freaking boring to me right now. I just look at a different folder. I'm like, okay, not going to do that.
Right.
Not going to do that.
I think that, I think we'd taken pictures of like 50 bags and luggage, and you're getting overwhelmed.
Well, what was so funny is this folder was driving me crazy because it had like 55 items in it, which is usually we max 20 items.
Because it's real quick, those of you that don't know, the way we do it is we take our photos in a bunch of photos of one kind of item.
Right.
Like a box of, or, like a big pile of bags.
Bags, luggage.
And then that goes into a folder, and then Ryan will list that. We just got an offer, and Ryan's about to take it.
Because it's been so slow.
Yeah, a pair of shoes, we've had it for a while. How much are they up for?
They're up for $120. They offer $90. They're Ferragamos,
so go ahead.
Hell yeah.
There it is.
Yay, thank God, a sale. So, this folder of 50 items, it was like all luggage. But the good thing is, we have a very, very good luck with luggage. And that luggage is taking up so much room in our storage shed. Every time we go in there, I'm like, oh my God, this stuff is not even listed. And it's great, Samsonite bags and Samsonite, like, big-ass suitcases.
Right. Backpacks.
Yeah, just great stuff that I'm like, I'm just going to get into this because everything else looks boring on my, list. So I think I listed in one day, I listed the entire folder.
I actually have the numbers of how much stuff got
cuckoo.
It listed. But, I'm going to go kind of deep here. When I talk about getting into that flow, and it's maybe you'll agree it's with me, it's where like one task leads to another, where it almost feels like a meditation, where I'm not really thinking. It's not like I'm getting angry at each task, and each task is just like beating my head against a wall. It's just where I'm just kind of like going, it's with it. So as I'm doing, it's one thing, I'm already thinking of the next thing.
Right, and the great thing about that is it gets done pretty fast. Once you're done and you're like, oh, I've been putting this off for so long, whatever, and you do it, you're like, oh,
Right.
It's done. It wasn't that bad.
And that's why when people complain, and I understand why. I mean, it's not like they aren't allowed to do it. But when people complain about it's so boring to list things on eBay, I mean, I've got to always remember that I can think of a million worse things that we could be doing, to earn a living.
Yes.
And I've done many of those things, where you're just like, I can't believe, I've got to do this because I've got to make a living, but this is killing me,
Right.
And so when I'm like, oh, it's so boring, and I got to list another pair of shoes, I'm just like, I've got the music on.
Yeah.
I'm getting a snack.
It's
Right.
It's not drudgery at all. Yeah, you really have to keep it in perspective, I think. I think it's harder to keep perspective on slow weeks, though. Like, I was having a tough time because I listed a lot of stuff this week and sales were still slow.
Right.
So that's tough.
So let's get into our numbers every week. We like to share the numbers from our store because we feel like, we aren't just here to blab about stuff.
Although we do blab a lot.
We like to kind of base our conversation in reality, and people who might be listening to this thinking about starting their own eBay store to make a living, you can actually see what kind of money you can make with the amount of effort that you put into it. So this week we made about $1,500.
Yep.
Which was
that's not bad.
It's not bad.
I thought it would be worse, honestly.
Yeah. So that's averaging $200 a day, which
is not
I
bad.
like.
Yeah.
We like to make more than that, but that's not bad. But it definitely felt slow because we had a couple good days, and then the end of the week, I mean, there was
days.
a 24-hour period where I don't think we sold anything.
No messages, no offers, nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, oh God.
And then so our highest price was $249.
Was the Outsider Art sketchbook.
It was that thing we actually talked about a week ago because it happened on Saturday. I mean, on Sunday morning. Yeah. So it was that.
But it counts for this week.
It was that booklet that sold to that a woman in L.A. So our average price sold was about $45.
It's a great average price.
Which is nice.
I like that.
Now, our cost of items sold was almost $300. So actually, if I say total sales is $1,500, minus a cost of items sold $300, and then minus the fees, you can see where maybe we're made $1,000,
right?
$1,100. But, it's still, that's the money we need to... thrive, and that's good.
Okay, so number of items listed this week.
Yeah, focus on that.
123 items.
Right.
You know what I was doing this week.
I just wanted to count that, yeah. So you had a couple of really good days where
I think
crazy.
I had to put an ace bandage on my arm because I was listing so much that my arm was hurting.
Right.
I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
That's what happens on slow weeks, though. You build your inventory up, and then on good weeks, that inventory sells. So that's how you got to think of it.
Yeah. So we continue to list, we continue to sell stuff, and our goal now is to try and hit 4,000 items in our store.
We're very close.
While still selling stuff.
Right.
We're up to about 3,800 things.
3,800.
And that number is totally arbitrary, It doesn't matter if you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I mean, for us, it's more just that's just a goal for ourselves. It's nice to have a challenge. So when you have a seat and you're going to spend a day doing eBay, it's nice to just have a goal. What am I trying to do?
What can I get up to?
Why don't I try and get up to 4,000 items? That's a good goal.
Right. Next week, if I really list, I could get up to.
Because if we don't give ourselves goals, then it's all kind of a nebulous.
Hazy.
It's just what am I doing? I don't know.
Oh my God.
Who cares?
I do that way more than you do. Trust me.
Who cares?
What is it? Nothing matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so things we sold, it's this week, nothing really exciting.
Yeah, nothing. We sold a silverware set. I think I showed it in the video. I did show it in the video. The thing about these silverware sets is I tend to pay higher prices because I know I'm going to make $100+ on them.
And what kind is it? What
it's canoe muffin. It's Echo Eterna, and these were actual like canoe muffin, and I sold them for,
which is the craziest name.
Yeah,
canoe.
I have no idea why it's called that, but it is, and it's not a pattern. It's just like a type of look with like the fake wood handle. I bought the set for $33 for the set, and I sold it for $100.
Right.
So that's not bad.
And actually, we took that offer when we were having
at the Waffle House.
It's breakfast on that day of scavenging. We're eating it's breakfast, trying to figure out where we're going to go scavenge, and we got an offer, and we took it.
Yeah,
and
it was great.
Very exciting.
That was good.
And I remember this kind of its pattern is so interesting because I forgot we were at an auction, bought like a big lot of stuff, and there was like a spoon.
Like a serving spoon.
I would have just thrown away. But you put it up by itself, and it sold for like $15.
By itself.
And we were like, what? I mean, why would someone buy a spoon? And so that's how we learned of this pattern.
Yeah.
And so now we always
look for it.
And
I pay high prices for it.
Very often as you can find it at estate sales.
Like they'll have a whole set of it.
So if you look at the What Sold a video from a week ago, you'll see that pattern in there.
No, it's this week. It's going to be up this week.
Oh, it
was at
this week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they gave us the offer on Tuesday and didn't pay till Thursday or whatever.
Gotcha. So the other thing we sold, which is so interesting, and this is like the eBay story.
Yeah, this is the story that like basically makes our business run.
And why eBay is still a very powerful player. We found an old ratty doll.
Yeah. This was a weird doll. I think I found it. I think it was in a box lot of weird dolls, right? Like there were 3 dolls in there,
right?
And I was just like, these are so ugly, whatever.
I mean,
I'm gonna put them up.
It was kind of ratty and dirty, and like the face was kind of scary. It was like a duck face.
Yeah. I think it was a chicken. I think it was like a little kid dressed up as a chicken. So it's got this weird like chicken duck beak.
Right.
It's made in Japan.
It
super weird.
It didn't look very high quality. So
yeah. Just basically cheap, like 60s.
So the question is, why would we take the time to put it up?
Right.
And it's just because it looked weird. And I don't know how to explain that to people, but I'm sure other scavengers understand this, where if you find something and you just know, like, you don't see this very often. Yeah. It's not common.
Like when I looked at this, I was like, this is definitely vintage. It's made in Japan post-war. It's got to be something.
And we did all kinds of searches.
Research.
Couldn't find anything like it. But we just took a chance and we put it up for how much?
$36.
$36.
I was like, why not?
So who's going to buy this old ratty doll? So we were watching it's Netflix one night, and it just sells outright.
And I was like, and I only listed it like a couple weeks ago.
Right.
But I was like, I know that whoever bought this is either some weird doll collector or they were looking for this specific doll.
And very often, when someone buys something from you, they don't talk to you or say anything.
Yeah, they just buy it.
But this woman wrote us right after she bought it and said, I'm so grateful that you had this. I'm so excited to get this doll. Thanks. So I wrote her back and said, can you tell me the story?
Actually, she said, I have a long story about it. And we were like, you should tell us what the story is.
This is like we said earlier, like when we're on our scavenging days, we love to talk to the people who either buy from us or we buy from because the stories are the most interesting.
Right.
And she said that when she was a girl, she had a doll just like this.
It was this doll.
And for some reason, the family got obsessed by it, and they made like a photo album of it, and they would take the doll and put it in certain poses and take it on trips.
And make little movies with it.
It's movies with it, and she actually sent us a picture of her original doll, and it was in really bad shape.
The arms had been re-sewn. There were holes in it. It was completely faded. It had almost no color.
And she was a grandma now. Right. And so she wanted to buy it, I guess, to introduce the same kind of doll into her granddaughter's life. And so it was cool. So something like that was, we made $36 on something that didn't cost us anything, really. Yeah. And the cool thing for us is we feel as scavengers, we were able to give life and a story to a family.
And it's just funny that, someone who's
it's like cheesy, isn't it?
I don't think it's cheesy. I think that's the whole reason eBay is special, is that someone's like, I have been looking for this thing for so long. I've never found another one, and you found it and described it in such a way that I could, because she said, I searched in eBay for yellow, red, plastic face doll. And yours came up, and it was the one.
Right. And, and that's a good point for people who are like, how do, if something is old and doesn't have any a marking on it or label, like, it's, what do you do? And the only thing we can say is do the best you can.
Just describe it as best you can.
Like, write the title like you're explaining it to someone on the telephone. Right. Because that's how people search.
Yeah, exactly. So that was very... very fun story. So you'll see that in the video. It's a very bizarre.
So it's this week we sold 34 items. 10 of those were under $30. So we had, so we had a fairly unexciting week as far as like big sales. It's most stuff is, like we always say, is bread and butter items that sell between $30 and $50. Right. Like that's about what we had, pair of overalls. We just sold like
a book.
Yeah.
Jesus.
We sold a couple pieces of electronics that we had bought at a
thrift store.
A thrift store a while ago.
Yeah, those are good.
So we sold some fabric.
Yeah, it's just the real exciting. Basic stuff, but stuff we always get.
A couple pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
We sold another knife, a Henkel knife.
Yep.
For some reason, people have been buying these knives from us, these these kind that people cook with,
Yeah, and I mean, we try to look for good quality. I listed an entire folder of knives last week because they really sell. The vintage,
and they're pretty easy to find. Like as we say, that's the kind of thing I always go to at thrift stores.
Because no one's looking at.
They have like a big box of just like crappy, like knives and spoons and forks. And most of it is total junk, but if you go in there will always be the odd, cool, it's knife made in Germany or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. And it's 50 cents, and you can sell it for $50.
Right. So, we kind of told you our story of what we did. It's this past week. It started off by that fun day of scavenging for us.
It's all about nail polish and newspaper rolls.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly talk about it's nail polish. So people heard us talk about. Yeah. We bought 800 bottles of the same exact color and brand of
it's all
nail
the
polish.
Exact same thing.
So what's our strategy for dealing with this? Well. Yes. We've done this before where we've bought a bunch of one thing.
Yeah.
And so number one is, we were like, could we put this on Amazon? So we go to Amazon and look and see that you have to actually
have a professional seller account where you pay like $40 a month.
Right, because it's health and beauty. And so I guess they're trying to cut down on people
selling crappy stuff. I guess. Or I don't know.
And you know what? I'm sure there are people out there like, do it. That's a great idea.
I don't want to pay $40.
Why don't you send it all into FBA? I mean, we talked about that, but you know what? We still like eBay, and we sell plenty on eBay.
Yeah.
So we've just decided we basically put up different pieces of it. So we did like you can buy a single bottle.
Yeah.
Or
5 bottles.
Or 10 bottles.
Right.
And so if people buy more, they get a better deal.
A better deal, yeah. And we've talked about this too, where there are people who are obsessed with nail polish. They're called nail polish lemmings. So it's some people are like, oh, nail polish, whatever. Some people are like, I'm actually friends with some people that I know that always do their nails, always take pictures of their nails, always blog about their nails. They are like nail freaks. So that's why I was willing to go into this, because I know that there are people who are really into the discontinued, because this is a discontinued color. So I was like, this is a good bet, I think. I hope.
But this really, is a good example of list it and forget it. The reason why it was exciting for us is that it's 800 bottles, but we only have to put up
3 listings.
A listing, and then that's it. In quantity 800, and just be done with it. And here's the thing. It will take 2 years to sell this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't sold a single bottle all week.
Yeah.
And we aren't freaking out because it's just all in a box. It's kind of hidden away.
Yep.
And so I'm not even thinking about it.
Right.
It's like those plates that we sold is last week. It took us 2 years to to sell a big stack of these cafeteria plates.
Right.
We paid whatever, a couple bucks for the whole stack, and we sold them all for, $500 or something.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same way here. We did the same thing when we bought a lot of 1,000 men's work pants, new in the box. I bought it at an online auction.
That government liquidation.
And, I drove 3 hours to go pick it up. There were so many boxes, I didn't realize how big how much there was. I had to actually drive back twice. I felt kind of dumb, so I had to do two-day trips to go get this stuff. That took us 2 to 3 years to sell those. But again, sold them all. We bought them all for $200 and probably made, I don't know, $5,000 to $8,000.
Yeah, over 2 years.
But it took time.
Yeah.
The same thing happened when we paid $5 for these 2 boxes of old nails. And we still have some left. But
what's so funny is, though, the numbers are so crazy. It's going to take me 2 years to sell. I'm almost done selling the nails. But we paid $5 for 100 pounds of vintage square cut nails. We're going to make like $1,000 on those,
because it's $10 a pound.
$10 a pound. So that's cool.
So that's what's great about these items that you can buy in big amounts, is that it's one of those things where it's like a little pipeline.
Yes, it is.
I love this word because it's like a good idea. It's like we now have 800 bottles of nail polish in this pipeline. And it starts as a trickle at first.
Yeah, slow.
And then what normally happens is, and I don't know why, at some point it either gets blogged about, someone links to it in a forum. I don't have
something happens. Yeah,
I don't have scientific proof of this because it's never tell. But but it happens at once where people start buying it, like boom, 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 and then I wish I had more of it because so many people are buying it. You're like, I wish we
had another 3 truckloads of it.
Right.
But, the other thing, too, is, again, like we always say, it's a risk. It's a low-dollar risk. These are pretty low-dollar risks. Like you said, it starts to build, and you become, like with this color, we will become the only people that have it.
Right.
Eventually. A few months or so. Because it's already run out on Amazon. They don't have it on Amazon anymore. So I know Amazon people are going to be like, put it on Amazon.
Who knows? I guess if in 6 months we haven't sold a lot of it on eBay, we may take that plunge, before Christmas time and go through the Amazon. Who knows? This might be the stuff that we experiment with FBA. Yeah. But for now, it's like eBay does fine for us, so it's not worth all the extra effort.
Or $40 a month on Amazon just to sell one product. That's tough.
Yeah, and I feel like if it's not really on Amazon, then people would, I would hope, automatically go to eBay.
Go look at on eBay.
Or if they just do a search on Google, they'll see it.
It should come up. Yeah, we're hoping.
Yep. And then I just wanted to also talk about just a little bit more detail when we got those. It's newspaper.
Right.
It's rolls. So we got actually 16 rolls that I see here for $28.
Yeah.
And so, those will last us for a year and a half.
And
right.
Thank God.
And that, again, it really, when we talked about that in the blog, it's this week when someone was saying that they got an item that was wrapped in it's newspaper. And
yes, he got it was Frank, and he got a Nintendo system, which is white plastic, and they hadn't put it in a plastic bag or wrapped it or anything. So the newsprint had gotten all over the Nintendo, and he thought it was damaged because it had all these like black marks on it. But then he realized it was from the newsprint. So yeah, it's crazy that a seller would be not thinking of that. Like, they don't want the item to get all dirty. It just... Yeah. So that's the beauty of the newspaper rolls. You should wrap your items anyway, either in a plastic shopping bag or in paper itself, and then put paper around it.
And then it makes you look like a pro.
Yeah.
And again, it's so cheap. You just have to call a local paper.
Yeah.
They'll totally know what you're talking about. You mean. I remember when we first heard about this, I was it's nervous. Like, they were going to think I was crazy.
Yeah, they're like, what do you want?
And they were going to ask me why I wanted it, and I feel like I needed to make up an excuse that I worked at a school, and, and really... Yeah.
They don't care.
The guy's like, yeah, people buy this because they have businesses and they buy it to pack stuff.
And we're like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care. And the other thing, too, is you can a lot of times get on the waiting list. And for me, 10 to 15 rolls will last a year. And I pack like crazy. So if you get, if you're not a heavy packer, you could get 5 rolls and it could last you a long time. Just get on the waiting list, have them call you, or just call every week and be like, do you have any? Can I come get it?
We got a lot because it's kind of it's an hour or so away from us. So we wanted just to do one trip. It could be right in your town.
It could be really close.
And you could just get a couple rolls at a time.
Yeah, so we love it. I cannot live without it anymore because I was running out and I was like panicking. Right. I was like, oh no.
So the next thing I want to talk about is our rental property.
Yes.
So people have said that they don't mind us talking about it because it really it's nothing to do with eBay, but it does have something to do with just our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we're here to talk about, and that is, this is new for us, so we started to rent this place out in March.
Yes.
And now April's coming, and the cool thing is April, we have booked every weekend, and we've booked 18 days in April.
Yeah.
And so
it's going to be a real
so it's now our challenge is to fill the entire month, so we're kind of excited. Yeah. And, this is exciting for us because we've talked about it before, we've used our profits from eBay to buy this other property.
Right.
And we fix it up with our eBay.
Yeah. That's
profits.
why it took 3 years.
Right. And so, this, I hope, is an example to people that it's not about just having an eBay store.
Yeah.
It's about having the eBay store, creating that pipeline. Its money's coming out in big bags, so we have big bags of cash.
I hope it's
and
big
then
bags.
If you're like, well, what do you do with that cash?
Yeah.
Well, if you're like us, you're really frugal already because we don't buy anything new.
Yeah.
So what do we do with that cash? Well,
buy a new dryer? What?
I mean, I guess that you could save it. That's cool. You could invest in the stock market. That's kind of cool. We don't do that. You could pay off debt, which is definitely cool.
You should be doing that.
But we thought, well, let's take this and let's invest it in another business.
Yeah.
And actually, so I wanted to kind of talk about that, about how, it's only been a month now since we've had it on its market and are renting it, but it's really changing the way I think about eBay. Mm-hmm. So that day when we were scavenging and we're like getting all this stuff on our truck, we're driving home and we get a message on Airbnb, which is great because they have an iPhone app.
Just like eBay, when you get a message, it sends you a little ping.
And, it's got a certain noise, and that new noise excites us.
Yes.
We're like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
And we pull over because I got to check it out right away.
Right.
And someone is asking to rent 5 days. It's a couple it's New York, and they're like, we want to rent it. They want to pay us full price because they're asking for a discount. I say, no problem. Ding. And we automatically booked $1,000.
It's so funny because it's like we forget how much money we spent and all the work and all the time. Like when we're getting a 5-day booking for $1,000, you're like, that's so much money. I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's a good amount of money. It's like you said, we did all the work up front to make this happen.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at Orion's face right now, and she has a huge smile, but I'm remembering that same face where
crying.
She's angry because it's one thing after another. We have to redo parts of the plumbing. We have to install these lights. We have to pull up the floor because we have to fix one of the floor joists. I mean, it was a job.
Yeah, it was a lot of time.
But we came out the other side, and and what I was thinking is that with this, it's rental property. It's like eBay in some ways that we've done all the work up front. We renovated it. We took photos. We made a clear, good listing on Airbnb. We researched and set a good price. Beyond that, we're kind of helpless.
Yeah. That's the hard thing.
Like, we're just waiting for someone to do a search and to see our place, and so far it's worked.
Yeah.
Some days we're like, why aren't people booking from May or June or there's really not much else we can do, just like eBay, other than just keep going.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the other cool thing is I think about this property is that it's kind of my dream to have people, because like on eBay, we'll sometimes, like, it's very rare where someone comes back and buys something us.
Return customers are pretty rare.
Especially for stuff that we sell. It's just like random kind of vintage stuff. It's not like we're selling ink cartridges where people keep coming back and buying the same ink cartridges.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping for this rental. People come, they stay, they love it, and they come next year.
Right.
And my dream is like it's March and our season is pre-booked.
Right.
Because people are pre-booking family vacations.
Yep.
And that's a whole thing. The way I can see this a rental business affecting our eBay business is that, and it's happening so far, it's making me a little calmer. So when eBay's slow, I'm like, we still have this other business, and we've been booking stuff here. Even if eBay were just to totally die, we could make a living just on the rent of this other place.
Well, that's always been the plan, is to have several businesses so that you're not always relying on just one. Like if one drops out, you keep going with the other ones. I don't think that's going to happen with eBay, because eBay seems, if you put the work in, it's pretty stable. Right. But if we're kind of like slowing down on that front and moving this way, you can kind of just, be going back and forth.
I mean, the other way that it seems that it's running this rental business is like eBay, is that, we put all this time and effort up front.
Yeah.
The place is there and ready to go. Now it's more like it's maintenance.
Yeah.
Where now it's like the only thing about this place now is like we're just investing our time to meet people and talk to people online.
Yeah.
And then going and cleaning. We could hire someone to do that, but like eBay, we choose to do all the work ourselves. So we make all the money. And, it's the same way with eBay. We put all the time and effort building up a large inventory. Yeah. Because that's our whole shtick, is like a large inventory. And then we kind of like can back off when it's need to.
Right. Exactly. You have that buffer. So we will continue to talk about our rental house. April, as we said, is super booked and super busy. So we're going to be doing a lot of cleaning. I'm sure we'll be talking about that a little bit.
We just got an inquiry from someone that wants to
rent our house.
Book our place.
Okay, so customer issues.
So we had a week where we didn't get a single return or complaint or anything. It's just nice. We have to we have to remember is these weeks when we have that week when we have a bunch of returns coming at one time and we think like everyone's horrible.
Yeah, it just comes in waves.
We've been getting good feedback and
we hit 7,000 feedback.
Yeah.
So we have 7,001 feedback.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but it's a big, even its number.
Yeah, it's just funny to see that number. And I think over the years we've sold about 15,000 items, so it's about half. I mean, it's less than half. I
feel like I saw once on eBay, it shows you how many items you sold, but I couldn't find where that number is. It's hidden somewhere. So
it's somewhere.
So someone knows, I'd love to see. I found where it tells you how much cash we've made on eBay since we started, but I can't find the number of items.
Of items you've sold.
And I'm amazed when someone has 15,000 feedback or more, because it takes us about a year
to get 1,000.
Selling pretty steady to get 1,000, because as we all know, you're lucky to get kind of half of the people that buy actually give you feedback.
Right.
And as everyone says, it's better to not get any feedback than to get negative feedback. So we don't harass people, or just if people do it, they do it. If not, whatever.
I think it's funny when new sellers will harass you for feedback, because on my buying account, I definitely get that, where people are like, please leave me feedback. Yeah. Please leave me feedback. I'm like, okay.
I get it. I mean, with our rental property, we're really hungry for
reviews.
People to leave us. Yeah. Yeah. And so I've been kind of like that, because until you have that history, it doesn't look so good.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so... it's taken us 6 years of pretty steady sales to get to 7,000 items.
Yeah, so that was a cool number to hit.
I mean, God, there are some of those sellers, and they're probably big companies that have like 1 million.
It's so crazy.
So does that mean that they've sold over 2 million?
Maybe.
But I guess they're the ones that are selling probably fairly inexpensive items just in quantity.
Oh, yeah,
and just
totally
amazing to me.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's just a different level.
So hats off to anyone that, has a good amount of feedback. It means that, you've done a lot of work and, put in the time and work into it.
Okay, so news. These are several news things that you have to explain, because I'm like, what is this?
Sure. So, people send us links, things that are about eBay, and my friend Mark, there's a bunch of Marks, but this is Mark from New Jersey, I think.
Okay.
Please forgive me, people, because I get it mixed up with who's who. He sent us a video that's brand new that eBay put out that shows a global shipping program.
Yes.
So a video, and we'll link to it at scavengerlife.com. It shows kind of behind the scenes
at the warehouse, not just like, this is how it works. They're showing you the warehouse.
I mean, it's kind of like a bit of an advertisement for
it's a promotional
program.
video.
I wish it went into a lot more detail, like of all these questions, that they don't actually talk to anyone. But you can see an item go through a conveyor belt. You see all the people. They kind of explain it's processed. They say and they show that they don't rebox everything.
Right.
They sometimes open up certain boxes because of its customs
to figure out what it is.
And then they re-tape that same box.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and if you see the quantity of stuff they're doing, there's no way they would be reboxing everything. So this is kind of proof,
right?
And the one cool part, it was like a second piece of.
But as video nerds, we saw it. We were like, "What?"
There was this guy that had this like a robot hand. It was like a scanner on his hand with all these wires.
And it looked like the scan came out of his finger. Right. So he was like scanning things with this thing on his arm.
It was so cool.
I was like, I don't care what that is. I want it.
That's so
I don't care what it does. I want it.
So the other thing is and this isn't really news, but I had someone email me about a month ago that's saying like they were just wondering about other links to things that we think are cool that have nothing to do with eBay, but what they have to do with is just stuff you can listen to while it's working, or things that we think are cool that kind of help motivate us. And one is there's a new podcast, homebrave.com, and again, these links will all be on our blog. And it's by Scott Carrier, and probably most people don't know who he is, but if you listen to It's American Life, he was one of the original kind of like stars, and he made these really cool podcasts back in the late 90s, and he's back. He kind of took time off, and he does these really cool like interviews and kind of stories about his life, so it's a good place to go if you're trying to find its new stuff to listen to. Another cool link that Orion found was by a guy that makes films that we like.
Yeah. So my brother is also a filmmaker. It's like me, my brother, my sister. We're all like video nerds. So he sent me this link to the film keynote at South by Southwest this year, which I'm actually thrilled that it was Mark Duplass. And if you've seen that show Togetherness on HBO, him and his brother Jay write and direct and like edit and do everything and make that show. Also, his brother Jay is on that show on Amazon called Transparent. So if you've seen those guys, they're very cool and they're very DIY about making films.
And we love this talk because we actually played it while we were doing eBay stuff. So it's a video, but we just heard it as a podcast because who cares about
he's just talking.
His face. Yeah. But, he is a filmmaker, is a scavenger.
Absolutely.
He talks about him and his brother. They just use equipment that they have. They beg, borrow, and steal.
Yep.
And the whole thing is about their stories that they tell are just kind of human stories. They don't need a lot of special effects or a lot of money.
Yeah.
And again, if you're hearing this and if you're like an artist or a filmmaker doing eBay on the side, I think it's cool because he talks about when you're starting and making its movies that you need kind of a side gig to keep you floating along while you're finding a voice.
Right.
And I immediately thought, eBay.
eBay is the side, yeah.
This would be perfect for people that want to make films. You can sell on eBay while you're planning your next film.
Yeah, exactly. And making money to make your $1,000 film is what he said.
And then that kind of goes into the next link we wanted to send people.
Yeah, so there's this show, it's on the web, it's on Vimeo, called High Maintenance, and it's done by a couple that incorporates the exact same ideas as the Duplass brothers of, like, you have a camera, you have, like, you're the crew, you're the actors, all your friends are the actors, you know, you shoot in people's apartments for free.
And you know, when I hear stuff like that, I kind of cringe because I think of like student films and like boring, but
High Maintenance is really good.
We're getting into a time where, you know, people who are very talented are now turning to this new equipment and doing it DIY style, and it's a good story. The story's about a guy who sells pot.
Yeah.
He's
in Brooklyn.
A bike guy, you know, so people call him, he rides his bike and so each story happens inside the apartment and you kind of get a look into someone's life and the problems they're having possibly, and it's very cool and very human, and we like
They've done 2 seasons and you can watch them on Vimeo. I think you can rent it on Vimeo.
The first season is free and the second one is like $8 for 10 episodes or something, so
which is great. You should always pay people.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of our... People can tell us if they think these links are interesting or not, but we thought we'd share that. Not having so much to do with eBay, but it's something to entertain
Scavenger.
You while you're doing this.
Also, it's very much scavenger mentality.
Right. So some of the things people talked about in the comments, because things we learned.
Yes.
Like we talked about is last week. We do this podcast because it's fun, but because we learn things from people. So the first thing we learned was from Amazing Taste.
Yes, I love that name.
And so she actually like dropped kind of a bombshell.
Yeah.
She was like, you know what, eBay has these keywords that Google checks out.
Right.
And if you don't have these keywords right, you don't get a link to on Google. And a link to where that is.
Yeah.
I had no idea this existed.
It's completely hidden. It's so buried.
So we will link to it on our blog. But basically, if you have a store, I don't know if it works for if you don't have a store, but each category of your store has these fields where you can put keywords in. And I looked, and all those fields were automatically filled in by eBay. And they were like for a single item on every single category. It was just like a pot top. It was like... And so, of course, Google wouldn't be picking this up.
Yeah, because it's junk.
Right. So I actually still haven't done it yet. But I need to go in and write a custom keywords for each one.
Right.
And I will link to her blog.
Her comment on the blog.
Because she kind of explains... how to actually do it. It's without spamming Google, because that's something else you don't want to do.
Yeah, because Google wants organic, like proper keywords.
Right. It's interesting. And so we learned something big, and so I'm going to change our keywords, and I hope other people do too, and we'll see if maybe it helps our store. I mean, to me, I'm like, wow, we've been selling all this time, 6 years, and we sell quite a bit, and people aren't finding us on Google? Like, that would be crazy.
What the hell? Yeah.
The next comment was, it isn't something we learned, but it really, someone said something that really, she put into words exactly the way I feel. And she did it so well. And this is
X. Now, is the saying that went with CBGBs. Okay. It's a whole punk thing. So people are like, what is that? Okay, so that's what it is.
She's like an original punk from LA who's now in the Northwest.
Yes.
She says,
I get as much satisfaction selling an item as buying it. The boost I get from having my eye and judgment proven is also what I am after besides the dough.
Right.
Exactly.
The cash, right? And she made that comment when we said that we sold that like Outsider a notebook with the artwork, where we talked about how exciting it is to find something that everyone thinks is junk, to put it online, and then to have someone buy it for a good price, and get excited by it, and you're like, yes,
that's exact. Like when I sold that Outsider art notebook, I wrote a handwritten note, and it was like, I'm so glad you thought this was special, because this is one of our favorite finds of all time.
And you know, and idea is really for those of us that do sell kind of, it's one of a kind, vintage, kind of weird, collectible items.
Yeah.
First, if you're just selling stuff on Amazon, nothing wrong with that. I buy stuff on Amazon. We buy brand new items.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's not quite as, to me, the reason why we don't sell like it's new stuff on Amazon so much is just because I don't feel like it's that same excitement when, you know, a brand new item sells.
Yeah.
Like,
you're like, someone wanted this.
I sold an iPhone case. Great. You know, like people need iPhone cases. You know, it's a good service to provide, but it doesn't give you the same high, the scavenger high.
Right.
And that's just for us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Something else we learned. Someone
mentioned that they run a professional cleaning service, right? And so there's a book about how, and we'll link to it on the blog, about how to clean your house, and there's a system to do it efficiently. How she said her people that work for her can clean a 2,000 square foot house in like an hour and a half tops. Right. That's amazing.
And she said that the way the book will work is you don't clean it like you would clean your own house the way maybe it's your mom taught you.
Right.
It's you think of it in a totally different way.
A different system. So we haven't gotten and that's great because that helps us a lot with the rental and with our house because our house is very dusty right now.
We just bought the book.
So we're going to check that out.
Because, you know, that's cool. Going to be the big, we've talked about it, it's before, and it's going to happen, it's this coming week where we'll have people leave at noon and we have to have the whole place cleaned by 3 for a whole, it's new thing. You know, and we're just schmoes. I mean, we're nobody. We're just like hard working people, but we've just been trying to clean the best we can.
Right.
But it'll be cool.
There's a better system to do it.
So hey, that made our week. To get that.
That's very helpful.
The other cool link was Tom, small T, big O, big M. He linked to another blog where they talk about 12 tips for finding roadside treasures. AKA great trash finds. And we've talked about this, it's before. We've done a little bit of this. It doesn't happen so much in the country where we are because people don't really put stuff in the trash out on the side of the street. But in the city, they definitely do. And so we've talked about doing that like when we were in it's Manhattan, and they talk about how to find things and figure out if something's, you know, it's worth taking or not. Right. And so it's... No, this is a very cool link. They're in Cambridge. That's what I found out. Cambridge, Mass. Which would be perfect to like scavenge. Oh my God. Boston is perfect because there's a lot of colleges. Right. I mean, Cambridge, obviously, there's a lot of colleges. There's a lot of, you know, young professionals. And I actually have, our schedules haven't figured themselves out yet, but I have an appointment to do another interview, a follow-up interview with Martin from GarbageFinds.com, who lives in Montreal, and his whole business is getting stuff out of people's trash and selling it on, he does yard sales, he does eBay and Craigslist, or people are now buying it directly from him on his the blog. He does these beautiful blog posts every week where he takes photos of what he finds in the trash. He shows you the pile of trash in front of someone's house, and then he shows you the stuff he found, and it is always amazing that every week you can find silver, art, jewelry, you know, silverware, and also just some of it's worth good cash because he's now making a living off of it. Right. Some of it's just cool. It's just, you know, cool stuff. Probably won't sell for a whole lot, but you're just like, man, people are just throwing away history, you know. It's incredible. So we love that. The other thing we learned, and it's more of a cool conversation, was an anonymous person asked how to list faster. He or she was, and I'll just say he because that's just my gut instinct. I could be wrong. I was like, you know, I'm trying to learn to list as fast as I can. Yeah. You know, how do I do it? Like it's myself. What's its process to get it done as fast? And I tried to answer it, trying to break down our process, although it's different because there's two of us. Mm-hmm. And then Linda and another person came on and said, well, I mean, I'm a lot slower than that, you know? And then it made me realize, like, it's good to be efficient. You know? You want to be efficient when you list. But at the same time, it's about that flow we talked about. Right. Like, it has to be a sustainable process. Yeah. I think you said something that
hit the nail on the head. You just can't be distracted. You, like, okay, I listed 125 items this week. It's because I was like, this is all I'm doing. Don't talk to me. I don't need to go into town for any appointments.
She was definitely like that.
I was very much like that. I was like, don't ask me any questions. Like,
but you also got into a flow, right?
Yeah.
You kind of got into
It's like, don't get up to go do the laundry. Like, don't do those things.
Right, and don't go to your email or check Facebook. I mean, we don't do Facebook.
I'll do that stuff occasionally because I'm like, I'm getting like burnout time. But you just have to muscle through it, and then you're like, wow, I just listed like 50 things.
But then the other thing that I was thinking was, it's also maybe not the right question to ask. Like, it's good to learn to be as efficient as possible, but you could list like crazy, list really fast one day, and very often, then you'll get burnt out.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to do it for 3 weeks. And then who cares how many stuff you did that one day?
Yeah, it doesn't
If you
count.
burn out, then it doesn't help you any.
Right.
It would be better if you only did 5 items a day every single day.
Right.
Versus if you did 30 items one day and then didn't do it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know? The whole point is we're trying to build a lifestyle where this is integrated into your life every single day.
Yeah, it's sustainable.
You know, and it's about enjoying its process versus being the most efficient.
Right. I mean, efficiency can come in different flavors, I guess. You know, you can be efficient where you're like, I got a lot done today. You know,
or it's like I finally got through those 5 things in that pile that I've been putting off, and just getting those 5 things done is a big, like, a mental hump,
like,
you know?
you unblocked that blockage.
Okay, so what's coming up this week for us?
Yes,
because we always like to look ahead. So we talked about we went to the dentist and the doctor, you know, for our yearly checkups. And so I found out, since I'm, you know, over 40, I just turned, how old am I? 42.
41, you're almost 42.
Gotcha.
We don't know how
41.
old
Hey,
you gained a year.
I just got younger.
Every time.
So I have a history in my family and the men in my family of colon cancer. And I told my doctor this, and he's like, well, let's get you signed up for a colonoscopy.
Which normally they said you don't have to get till 50, right? So you would have like basically 10 more years.
Right. So they do it every supposedly 5 years. And so he's like, let's sign you up. I'm like, okay, sure.
Great. No big deal.
And then he's like, okay, here's this paperwork. You're going to have to like drink all this stuff to purge your bowels. Don't eat 24 hours before you come in. We're going to like put you under.
We're not sure what the time is you'll be coming in, so we'll call you, and all these phone calls later.
So basically my Monday is fasting and purging my bowels, and then Tuesday is getting, you know, is probably going to take 3 hours
all day,
and then afterwards I'm going to be probably all drugged up, so not
you're just going to be on the couch like relaxing.
But the cool thing is, because we have our own business, I can ask, it's my boss, if I can take off.
Your boss is me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's taking up time, but it's great because we're like, all right, that's just what's going to be happening. I'm sure Monday, because you're not eating, you're going to be cranky as hell, so I'm going to be like, you go in the other room.
Right.
But...
And the other thing we did this past week, and that we're looking forward to, is, you know, we travel for our other job. We do video work. Our next job is in LA in the second week of May.
Yeah.
So basically, we booked that travel already. We had to book our flights, and so now it's real. And I was getting a little bit I get nervous for 2 reasons. Number one is it starts to stress me out because we have so much eBay stuff to do when we do these jobs.
It puts a damper on that.
You know, it gets us out of it for, you know, 2-3 weeks at a time or more. But it's still 6 weeks away, so we've got plenty of time. The other thing is I just hate to fly, and so every time I think, I got to fly across the country, it's just like I get a little bit, it's nervous.
The good thing is, since it's from DC to LA, it's a nonstop on Virgin America, which is our favorite airline. Super comfortable. Whenever we leave the plane, I'm like, I just had a great flight, which is not always the case.
So, those of you who might be as nervous flying as like I am, I've had panic attacks on flights. So, I've developed a system through help. I've talked about therapy before.
Right.
I haven't been to therapy specifically for this, but I know how to get help. And so, I've developed ways to learn how to fly.
Yeah, and actually it includes stuff on the iPad and very good headphones.
Yeah, it's just kind of like almost getting into a cocoon where I'm just like...
a comfortable cocoon. Because you know what? Honestly, I mean, this is like a whole other podcast, but flying now, if you're not on certain airlines, is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe there was one flight we were on that was the most uncomfortable flight. It just, you're packed in. You're just
it's like sardines. I mean, we're total scavengers and we're totally thrifty. But for things like flying, we actually pay the extra money to get upgrade to either get to the emergency rows where there's extra seats, or if they have like, not business class, but sometimes they'll have like a step up where there's a little bit better service if you're at the front of the plane.
It's like economy plus.
Man, paying $60, $100 each is always worth it.
It can very much be worth it. So, but also we are avid travelers, and we've traveled a lot over the last 10 years. So we've started to refine what we need when we travel to be comfortable and like calm, and because we've traveled so much over the last 10 years that we've been through the like flight to India, which is like basically 25 hours. You're just like, I have to be comfortable or else I get off the plane and I'm just like, horrible. So anyway, that's a tangent.
So that just, now it's like we know when we're flying out, and now it's like a timeline.
Yeah.
It's like a ticking clock, and now I'm starting to think, what do we want to get done before we have? Like, I'd like to finish this artwork that's in front of us.
Yeah.
It's finished. I have big bins of shoes. I love.
Yeah, the shoes are. You started your shoes, so that's happening. Okay, so we have a bunch of questions on voicemail
and email. So people, you can either email us its questions or stories, or what we like better is if you actually call, because we like to incorporate people's voices into the podcast because
it's more fun that way.
Yeah, and it kind of brings everything to life.
Yeah.
So,
you can call us at 540-407-8486. It is just a voicemail. We don't pick up, just the machine picks up.
And there is a 3-minute limit. Yes. So obviously if you start going on, it'll just cut you off. So
let's listen to the first one. Yep.
Hi, Jay and Ray. I'd like to tell you how much I enjoy your podcast and the information you give. My question is about the global shipping program. I have it indicated that I participate in the global shipping program on my items, but occasionally, pretty often lately, I get a message from a buyer that wants me to estimate what it's going to cost for them to ship to wherever. I don't really know how to answer that question if it's through global shipping, and occasionally I've pursued it as far as shipping it just direct, but I also understand that some of the protection for both buyer and seller through the global shipping program don't apply whenever you ship direct. I don't know how to estimate and answer their questions. If you could give me some heads up, I really would appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Bye.
So we've been talking about the global shipping program. I feel like we're almost like eBay shills because we're so pro global shipping program. Yeah. And our experience is so positive compared to all the, hubbub that you hear online about how bad it is.
Right.
So here's the deal. So this happens to us sometimes where we'll get a buyer that's like, I live in Poland. How much is it going to be to ship to me? I mean,
yeah.
I only laugh because number one is it should tell them. I mean, if they're signed in,
right,
it should know where they live, and then there's calculated cost, and it should tell them exactly how much.
Yeah, people don't see it, they're not paying attention, whatever. The good thing is, on the eBay listing itself, you can go in and you can say what country you're in. So you could say, I'm in Poland,
right.
I'm in the UK, and say calculate shipping, and you get that price.
Right. So, if we want that sale to happen, we'll do that extra work where it will be like, all right, the person asking this is in Poland, so why don't we sign out of eBay?
You didn't even have to sign out. Why don't we just click on your listing?
Yeah. Why don't we just see how much it's going to be, and then it will tell them.
Yeah. So on your listing, if you're on the computer, there's a little tab underneath the title and stuff that says, shipping. It says shipping and payments. And there's a drop-down menu where you can change the country, or you can change the zip code if someone's asking, I'm in California, how much? It's really easy.
Now, if some people for some reason don't do the calculated shipping where eBay will dynamically tell people how much it is based on where they are, they put like a flat fee.
Right.
If someone does a flat fee for domestic, does it also do something overseas?
You have to specify that.
Okay.
Because there's two different sections. There's like U.S. shipping specifications and international. So they'd have to go in and say flat and put in $10 or whatever.
So if we have the global shipping program and someone says they're from Poland, it will then tell you how much it will cost them through the global shipping program.
If Poland is covered, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
it should.
Cool.
It will.
And that includes all the
import fees, everything,
handling, tracking.
Yep.
Cool. I love it.
I love it.
Cool. So let's do one. We had a question by email, and this isn't really a question. It's a listener just wrote in and kind of gave us a long story, which is interesting.
Okay, so his wife is Czech, from the Czech Republic.
Right. And he says that her parents are scavengers. And he said, he had heard in one of our podcasts where we talked about how difficult it seemed to scavenge in other countries, not like America, because America is so wasteful and so much abundance. But he says that her parents are actually doing very well, that they've been scavenging for decades.
Yeah.
And what they did was they actually, they seemed to specialize in a certain kind of car. There's a car made in Czechoslovakia, or the communist country, and it was called Skoda. And so what they did...
Russia, right?
No, in
Czech Republic. Czechoslovakia, former Czechoslovakia. Okay.
In that they specialize in that, and I guess after communism fell, they started buying up these old cars and going to junkyards, and
because people still had them, right? Or people collected them.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the car, I guess it wasn't really made anymore.
That's cool.
So they specialize in that, and I guess if you buy that part online, you're probably buying from them because they cornered the market, I guess.
They saw something that they knew would be valuable, and they went for it.
And they put her daughter through college, and she came to America, and they met, and now they...
That's so cool.
I don't know if they have kids or not.
That's amazing.
But to me, it's a good story, because if you're a scavenger, I feel like you can scavenge anywhere. You just have to know the local scene. If when we parachuted into Prague, and we're only there for like a week or 10 days, I mean, we don't know the area well enough to find where we can scavenge.
And we're not there long enough.
And we don't know the language and all that stuff. Yeah. But I feel like if you live somewhere, you'll know what's available.
Right. Exactly. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
I love that story. Okay, next voicemail.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Brian. Say, you probably answered this question before, but I might have missed it. When you go on your 4, 5, and 6 week excursions out of your town where you live, how are you going to maintain your rental home or the cleanup after the people leave? Thanks.
Okay, so we have a very good friend who...
I think it's funny. I just think it's funny that I like that people care enough that they're like thinking ahead for us.
Well,
how are we going to solve this problem?
I think it's that, and maybe they're thinking of doing a rental too, and they're like, if I went away, how would I deal with that? I
think they just care about us.
Okay, maybe they just care. Okay, so we have a really good friend who actually is building a house down the street, And for a couple of years now, he's been house sitting for us and cat sitting. And
actually this past winter time, his house had not been completed, so we actually allowed him to
live in our rental house.
Right, so he's actually is living in this house that we rent now, so he knows the house very well.
Yeah.
And we've made a deal with him where basically when we're gone, he will meet people and check them in. He'll be on call if they have questions, and then he'll clean up.
Right.
And we'll pay him 20% of his profit. So.
Yeah, so that is the deal now. We'll see how that works out. We are going away in May, so that'll be our first test run.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan. This is Deborah from Albuquerque, New Mexico. My son and I are now doing what you guys are doing. And our question is, it seems like to us it takes us forever to get something posted on eBay. I mean, we can spend like 30 minutes just trying to get something up. So we were wondering if we're doing something wrong, what we might be doing wrong, if you could give us some tips on how to get our postings up quicker. And we love watching your podcast or listening to it. We love seeing all your videos about what you have sold in your shop. You guys are awesome, and thank you for sharing with the community. Most people want to charge. Anyway, just love you guys. Appreciate all that you do. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
So this is a very common question, especially for people just starting out and they think like things are taking a long time. And really like sometimes it takes 30 minutes to list an item if it's new to you.
Yeah. There have been times even now when I'll have something and it won't take a half an hour, but I mean, I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, what is this thing? How much is it worth? How am I going to describe it? Yeah, and it takes a little while because you're like, I need to do it right because if I don't, it won't sell.
And, you know, we've talked about this, it's before. So that one item it's new to us will take a half an hour to research and look at completed items. And then once we've learned that, then the next time that item shows up, it's a done deal.
It's faster.
It's faster. So if you're new to eBay, a listing's always going to probably be pretty slow.
Right.
But you just get faster and faster because really there's only a certain amount of items under the sun that any of us really find. I mean, it's very rare that we find something we've never seen before ever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things like I have this little lamp base that we were just arguing about
the thrift store. We were like arguing.
I was like,
wait, people are like looking at us.
I could not even deal with you today because I was just like, what the hell? I mean, just as a side note, you see what it is, right? There's a hole in the top, so you would put the lamp in that hole.
You weren't understanding my question where I was like, this looks exactly like the same thing. Do they go together? And you kept saying yes. I'm like, okay, where does this go?
Oh no, I didn't mean they went together. I meant it's the same as the one we have at home, except the one we have at home doesn't have a lamp on it. It's not a lamp shade, it's a lamp base.
So we're going to actually include, that's kind of how we argue. We bicker like that.
Oh my God.
Although there's even a little more of an edge to it than
And when we're in the store, I'm just like, this is the problem. We're looking at each other. I'm like, I have no idea how to explain this to you, and you have no idea how to ask me the question, so I understand what the hell you're saying. Anyway, so that thing, I had a really hard time describing it because I was like, I have no idea what this is until someone actually emailed me and said, this is a base for a lamp. I thought it was like a pen holder. I don't know what the hell. So anyway, that took forever to research, and I still did it wrong, but someone helped me. So
ultimately, and we talked about this earlier, just because someone was asking about how to be the most efficient. I mean, really, it's just about focusing. You know, I find when people are asking, how do I do this faster? What they're really asking is, how do I not waste time? You know, how do I focus? Like I get so bored, and so I don't focus on this.
Now, if it's going to take you a half an hour, continuously for years to list something, that's a problem. But it won't. I mean, if you're just starting out, it's not going to take that long.
Okay, we have a question or kind of a comment by email. In the blog last week, in the comments, someone was talking about parting out items.
Yes.
Where, there are people that specialize in this, and we actually interviewed a guy who was doing it with computer parts, but you can do it with its mechanical parts too.
Or like kitchen
a juicer,
things. Yeah,
a blender.
Juicer, stuff like that. Because people do buy those parts.
And what she says, this person that emailed me says that her husband parts out guns. So I didn't think that you could sell gun parts, but it's maybe you just can't sell the gun itself, but
together.
But so I guess he'll go to an auction and buy guns that are kind of in bad shape.
Right.
He'll part out the pieces, but the thing is, it sounds like he doesn't like to actually do the eBay stuff. So he parts it out, and then she has to sell it online. And she brought up a good point, though. Partying out is cool, but you really have to be into it. Right. And she says, like, she doesn't know anything about guns, and she kind of hates it, or she's not really passionate about it.
Yeah.
And so she'll often, like, spend a lot of time trying to figure out what this item is.
Right.
And this has happened to us where we don't know about the item. Someone will ask us a question about it. And
we don't know how to answer it.
I don't even know how to answer it.
And you know what I have problems with? Gun holsters. And that's my problem. They're like, is this for a pistol or like a whatever?
Or a 45
or a revolver. I'm like, dude, I didn't even know how to list this thing. I just thank God it had writing on it.
But, so that's an interesting thing just for us all to learn that, you could part out anything, but ultimately...
you have to care. You have to care.
Be into it and be able to learn about that thing.
Right.
Just as an example, though, what we do is when someone asks us a question that we don't know, we ask them, how do I tell?
What should I be looking for?
And then they'll tell you, and then suddenly we've just learned something new,
And, like I said, people will, if you've written something wrong also in your description, people certainly will let you know. Many, many times people are like, oh, this is a such and such.
Right. Like, I remember we've bought and sold some saddles before.
Yes.
And we don't know anything about horses or saddles. And we're just like, this is a saddle. It's cool.
Yeah.
But then people will ask, like,
what size is it?
What's the stride or something?
Yeah, or I forget what it's called. It's called, like, the tree or something.
And then they explained exactly how to it's measured.
Yeah.
And we're like, cool.
Great, now I know.
We've been selling baseball gloves too.
Yes.
And we're like, and people are like, what size? And we're like, we have no idea. It fits my hand.
Yeah.
Medium. And they're like, no, it's a measure from this point
here to here.
This point.
And it's great because once you do that and put it in there, your thing should sell pretty fast.
Yeah.
I have some advice for Anna. When I think that, like, after I'm hoarding all this material and there's nothing to do, I try to make sure I list it all, but also to not get so stagnant, I also try to find a new niche, or I'll do some kind of experiments where, go buy something and look it up and then maybe try like a one-day auction or just something just to like revive me or just to make it a lot better. And so that's my advice. Like when you think things are getting boring, you're listing the same stuff over and over, I say, go find you a new niche and try it out. And then that'll get you re-excited about eBay again and wanting to sell more, wanting to list more. After you list your new stuff, go back and relist all your old inventory. All right, that's all I got. Thanks.
Yep, so this is a good kind of comment. Anna had called in about a problem she has, and she's doing a reality check about is she a hoarder or is she actually someone that sells on eBay?
Right.
Because if you don't list, you're really just a hoarder.
Yeah.
And, I think we all struggle with that, these piles of death in the house that are like hanging over you.
Yep.
And so this guy has an interesting, thing. I think it's true. It's like if this one pile is really bugging you, try selling something out of this other pile.
Right.
Yeah.
Or sell this whole pile as a lot. Make it really easy on yourself.
Like snap a picture of it and be just like 99 cents and
auction start.
I'll throw it into a big box and mail it. I
mean, I think it's good to mix things up. I mean, I tell myself that all the time. If I'm like, in the middle of the day, if I'm like, I'm going crazy, I do not want to list anything. Okay, great. Go pack the stuff that's sold overnight and just go do that, refresh yourself, and then come back, You just have to do stuff like that.
And And it's like you said, try buying it's new kind of items. So if you've been like really obsessed with like ski clothes for kids, which is probably cool, and I'm sure people buy it. But if you have too much of that stuff, like maybe stop buying that and start buying, like some other kind of item that might be more
that's interesting to you. I mean, that's something we talk about all the time too. Is like it has to be interesting to you. You have to get some kind of satisfaction out of buying it, photographing it, listing it, shipping it. Like that has to bring satisfaction throughout the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty good about this, and we've talked about it, about this cycle of life or something. It's like the cycle of eBay, and every part of it is very important.
Yeah.
There's a scavenging part of it and the excitement of finding it. There's the excitement of researching it and getting excited that it's something cool.
Yeah.
You got to be excited about putting it on eBay.
Right.
That has to be exciting. And then the excitement of selling
it.
And then packing it,
Yeah.
So every part of that has to be exciting, or else you're not going to
want to be a seller.
So this is a question from actually a friend of mine who I went to high school with. I've never been on Facebook. It was a conscious choice, but I guess that's where a lot of people find each other from high school.
Yes.
So I don't find a lot of my high school friends.
Yeah.
And it was funny when she emailed us and was like, "Is this you from this certain school?"
Yeah, I was like, "Are you from this town, this high school?"
Like, yep. So it's whatever, 20-something years later, and I'm selling things on eBay.
But she found you through the podcast. It's so random.
Yeah, and she's cool. So she's been selling some stuff, and she had a question. So what she asked was, it's Goodwill has like an eBay-like site.
Yeah, like an auction site where they sell high-end stuff.
And she seems to be into art, so she like bought a photograph, and she was like, it was dirt cheap, and she was asking, have we seen Goodwill eat into our business?
You mean through the auction site?
Yeah, or just, the fact that Goodwill is a source of stuff that all of us buy, or that's, and some people more than others. Have we seen people who would normally buy on eBay just buying the stuff on Goodwill and skipping people like us?
Yeah, I don't find that to be true. But then again, I guess the question is, how would we know if someone decided to buy there and not on eBay? Because I would never know if they did or not. I guess
if we felt like there was a loss of sales, or like if our sales are getting smaller.
Lower. And I don't feel that way at all.
I think it's my answer. I mean, there's just like, there's so much stuff that Goodwill is just really a tiny part of it, and they might have auctions, but there's so much other stuff. And
the other thing too is like, there's so many people in this country. I mean, in just our country, and obviously in the world, there's so much stuff and so many different things that people are looking for. I just think, I mean, when we first started the podcast, people were like, why are you doing this podcast? You're going to make all this competition. And I don't feel that way at all. Like, I'm like, we tell people the stuff we buy and sell every single week, and I don't feel like I, am like...
Right. I mean, like, why are we telling our secrets?
Right.
Like, we're creating competition.
I'm showing people exactly what sells in my store,
Like, we tell people that overalls sell, and now it's like...
Everyone's getting overalls. But so what?
Yeah.
There's a crap load of overalls, and there are a crap load of people who want them, so there's enough for everybody.
Yeah. And, we come from the point of view of the more of us that are selling quality items online, I feel means more people are going to start buying online.
Right. Because they have a better experience.
Right. And so I feel it's like it's fulfilling, positive reinforcing cycle.
Right. I mean, the thing is, too, think about it. If I don't have the overalls that someone's looking for, they're going to find it from you guys, or vice versa. It's just like, I'm not afraid of that at all. Okay, last voicemail.
Mark here. Been on and off eBay for about 15 years. Never been a full-time seller. Don't really have a niche. I find that I am very impatient to sell quickly due to recoup my sourcing costs and due to very limited storage space with my living arrangements. My question is, so much of what you guys profile in your YouTube videos, you sell for what seems to be, even after a best offer, a premium. or at least, at the very least, a full price. What is your secret to achieving these, what seem to be, to me, full prices? Is it simply asking for the sale, or is it simply time, leaving the stuff up for a long time until it sells? Would be interested in hearing your secrets. Like I said, I have very bad luck achieving full price for my listings. Thank you.
What's interesting is what he said was he's very impatient.
Yeah.
And
right. I mean, his.
Yeah.
Our answer.
He answered himself.
Our answer is embedded in his.
His question.
His question that, number one, he doesn't have a lot of storage. Number two, he's impatient.
Right.
Probably because he can't store a lot.
Right.
So the way we sell is not like the system.
Right.
We aren't
the
saying,
number one only way.
We aren't saying this is the only way to sell. This is the way that sells for us. It fits our lifestyle.
Right.
If you Google Scavenger Life and Mr. Customer Service, you'll get an interview we did maybe a year
ago,
with this guy that's been selling on eBay for a long time. He lives in California.
Yep.
He seems fairly well known.
He's a scavenger.
He's got one shelf in his garage, and he goes scavenging twice a week.
Yep.
And he lists twice a week, and he ships once a week.
Right.
So what he does is he goes to estate sales and
flea markets,
buys a bunch of stuff, puts it all on auction.
Yep.
Everything sells.
Mostly.
And the stuff that doesn't sell, he'll slash the price
and relist,
and he gets it sold by the second or third week.
Right.
But basically, where everything is gone, he doesn't hold on to anything. So his prices, he doesn't always get the prices we get, but he sounds like pretty good cash, and it works for him.
Right.
But the thing is, though, when you hear the interview, though, he's a very active.
Yes.
A seller.
He is working every week.
If he doesn't list, there's no auctions, and he doesn't sell. So it's kind of like an on-off switch.
Right.
Whereas we're more again, we talk about this pipeline. We create a pipeline, and you throw a bunch of stuff into it, and then it's always just flowing.
Here's the thing. We took a break in between this podcast to do some stuff, and we just sold a sink for $250, but I've been sitting on that sink for how long? A year and a half. Right. But I got full price for it.
Right. And
it's sat in my storage space for a year and a half.
And and we kind of even forgot about it.
Just the other day, you're like, we haven't sold any sinks. It's just sold. It's so it's a different.
So, he's asking, it's what our secret is, and the secret is the patience. The fact that.
Storage and patience.
The fact that we have basically kind of unlimited ways to store things.
Essentially.
We never let storage stop us. We'll go get more storage if we think we'll make
more money. Yeah.
Money, but we're willing to wait for the price we want rather than, being this thing has to sell.
It's got to move. Yeah. Although, you know what, I will say, on slow weeks, I feel like that, where I'm like, get this furniture out, get this stuff out.
Well, that's why we have best offer on a lot of stuff, because on slow weeks, I'll
take offers.
We may take a half price offer.
Yeah.
We actually have 2 end tables that we can't ship. It's a local pickup only, and we probably had them
gorgeous end tables. I wish I could keep them myself.
8 months or something, and they take up a little more room. They're a little more obvious to us. And someone made us an offer of we wanted $400. They offered $250. I was like, yes. Come and get them tomorrow.
We paid $25 for them.
Right. So we took quite a hit on it.
Right.
But
but it's getting out of our storage, and it was actually on Craigslist, so it's cash.
Right.
So you balance it out.
Right. And the other thing is, let's just be honest. When Ryan makes her What's Sold videos, very often we show
the coolest stuff.
The coolest items that get the coolest price.
I mean, I try to show, like, this is a shirt. It sold for $15. You know, I do try to show the smaller stuff.
Right.
But sometimes I'm kind of bored by it. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to show that thing that sold for $12.99.
So you know, some of those, I mean, those videos obviously are kind of brag videos too. We're trying to show, you know, because we did the work and we found something really cool and described it well, we got this top dollar for it.
Right.
And that's exciting to us. And we hope that that's helpful for other people who, if you're willing to be patient, you could get those kind of prices too.
But we do say in our numbers during the week too, Jay started to say the amount of items that sold that were under $20 or $30, right? $30.
Yeah.
So we will say that because I don't want to be one of those people that's like, this sold for $100, this sold for $200, this sold for $500, and people are like, Jesus, that's crazy. It's like, okay, but everything else sold for like $20, you know?
Like, you know, it's this week, you know, like a third of our items sold under $30.
Under $30. Yeah. So you're like, a $25 hat, a $25 book, you know, so.
But, you know, again, I find that people who really depend on auctions, they're underselling their items because,
in general, I mean, they move their stuff out fast, that's for sure.
Yeah, because, you know, people buy it for opening bid.
Right.
And so I guess you can price it for the price is you want, but
then sometimes your auctions just start too high.
Or they just don't sell because, people want it to start low so they can feel like they're getting a deal.
Yeah, so.
But hope that helps.
There's different ways to do it.
Okay, we have one last kind of question, or this is more of just like a bit of a story. He says, it's a sad story for me, but a funny story for you and your listeners. So we're ready to laugh at you.
Oh, no.
No. So he says, it's this morning, he woke up at 5 a.m. to get to work. And like every morning, he checked his phone to see if something sold. I'm that way, too.
Oh, my God. The second you wake up.
Right by my head, you know.
I'm like...
So he saw that like a tote bag that he got for $40. Someone had given him a best offer for $5. So he's like waking up and he like declines it, and then he hears a cha-ching, and he had accidentally accepted the offer.
Oh, that sucks so bad.
Because he was asleep and probably.
Oh.
So I guess what he's asking is that the person hasn't paid yet.
Right.
So maybe they won't pay and he'll be able to get out of it because he can just cancel the sale.
Yeah.
But he's like, is there any way he could get out of that? It's a mistake. Like, could he, without being penalized?
Right, without getting a defect.
Can you, can't, because if you cancel it, then...
You get some kind of defect, right?
Because you get a defect because you're canceling a sale that the person wants, you know?
Right.
I think it's like we always say, a lesson is expensive. And this is a lesson, just be a little more awake.
Either you're going to make $5 and not get a defect, or you're going to cancel it and get a defect. Yeah, it sucks.
And, you know, as a buyer, I think if I were to make an offer and someone accepted and then they wrote me and said, oh,
that was a mistake.
I don't know. I'd be a little bummed because...
You might get negative feedback. Well, can you get negative feedback if they never pay? I don't know.
I
feel like,
I say it's with anything, like we always do. We just take its responsibility.
Yeah.
If we make a mistake, we're like, okay.
Or, I don't know, message your person. I don't know.
In what say?
I accidentally said yes to $5.
You could try that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it sucks.
Okay, guys, that's it for this week. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com, and you will see all the links that we discussed in this podcast you can go to. You can also join the conversation there, just get into the blog comments. If you have a question or a comment, or if you want to answer a question that someone talked about, just you can call us at 540-407-8486. Yep. Something I'm starting to link to like a throwback episode, and like I'll put it on the blog post.
Right.
I'll pick out what I think was a good episode we had in the past, just to kind of give people maybe it's new people. They can go back and hear maybe some part of our archives if they want.
Cool. Good idea.
Yep. And we also want to say thank you for those people that have donated over the past
to our little tip jar.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally not a necessary thing, but it's definitely nice to get bits of tips here and there, and it helps It's been paying our phone bill and our internet bill.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
That keeps us.
So thank you.
It's motivated. And then Wednesdays, most Wednesdays, is Ryan will post a what sold.
Yes, if we are in town and not traveling, I will post a what sold in our store. And I will try to show the cheap stuff now. I'll try to show you the $12 things that sold.
Yeah, and
they're not interesting.
I actually just did an interview with a seller, and I have a couple. It's more coming up, so we'll start to
put some
interviews up, which are kind of interesting. And then the last thing is a little bit of a pitch for a farmhouse.
Yes.
If you would like to go on vacation
in a beautiful part of the country,
in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, outside of it's DC, you can rent our farmhouse. We're actually going to link to it on the blog. So
it will be linked to officially on the blog.
And not that this is a necessary thing, but if you wanted us to have dinner, it's with you. We'd even come and eat if you cooked for us. And we could talk about eBay.
I love that you're making them cook for it. You know what? We get some Chinese takeout.
No, we're going to be barbecuing on the
barbecuing. Grill. That's right. It's been so cold this weekend. I'm like, barbecue, what? Yeah, so we would love people to come to our valley.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. I mean, obviously, it's our business, so we're making it's money, but we thought, hey, if anyone wants to come and meet us and see our area.
And see the house we talk about every week now. Come on down. So we will link to that on the sidebar.
Cool. So this podcast is ending in
3, 2, 1, 0.
Bye.